Afternoon. We're going to open this special board meeting this afternoon at the Solid Waste Authority, October 2nd, 2018. I will ask that Ms. Creech give us the invocation, and Mr. Johnson will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
If you'll bow your heads, please. Lord, we come to you today, and we want to tell you how thankful we are for all over this county, how little damage we got from Hurricane Florence. And please be with everyone that did get damaged. Help them in every way that they can to get back into their homes and back into their regular life. We thank you for everything in the world that you've done for us, and we appreciate it very much. We appreciate you being here with us today to help us in this deliberation. Amen.
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 Please stand.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, I need to get an approval of the agenda.
So
I
moved.
move. Second.
It's been properly moved in second. All those in favor? Say
Aye.
Ayes have it, and the agenda is approved. I'd like to remind you that this is a special call meeting, and we will only discuss those items that has been listed on the agenda. Okay? I don't have any requests for public input. So with that, we will move into new business, and the first item is the storm debris disposal resolution, and I'll let Danny take care of that.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. After much thought and what we've heard about the storm and what's in the rivers and the streams and everything from fly ash to everything, we've discussed it with staff. At one time, we were thinking about pushing as much of this material out of our landfill as we could, but I still have flashbacks of sitting in federal court for 3 days over TVs and electronics, and we were in the chain of ownership of those, and I feel just as strong that we need to take this material, we need to place it in the landfill, where we can keep it out, the possibility of getting outside of the landfill. We feel like, based on the amount of material that we discussed with Steve yesterday, that we're looking at probably 4 to 6 months out of the life of the landfill. And I think we can make that up in compaction rates, and as we generally do. But I think the liability issue is much stronger than 4 to 6 months. And I just, we know how we will treat the material here. It'll be the first time we put this stuff in the landfill. It will be at $36 a ton, because that is the cost of closure, and post-closure is built into that price. Now, any other C&D that comes in that has not been flooded, in the flood area, will go to the regular C&D as it does today. So we'll have to judge at the scale house where it goes and what price that's paid on it. The county will be discussing pulling the trigger on their contract tonight at the council meeting. There's a lot of stuff out there. I rode through Aberdeen yesterday, and it's a terrible situation, from everything from pianos to china cabinets to all the furniture is on the front curb. So most of the cities have their contracts. The county will have their contract. We've already talked to Briarcliff talked about activating theirs and getting the limbs and debris like that brought in, so we will be setting up locations for each contractor to view their trucks and everything, so it's my recommendation to the board to let's place this stuff in the line landfill where it will be treated, the leachate will be treated, it will be tested, and there'll be no danger of being in a regular C&D landfill.
I see this as a greater liability than I do the electronics, because with the electronics, we didn't have a choice. The state mandated that we had to take them. They mandated who we had to deal with, and we still ended up in federal court. Here, we have a choice not to accept that liability. We were in control of this. We weren't in control of the electronics and got in trouble. I don't see any way that this can benefit us. I think it's a problem that we would accept, and I think that's a bad move.
Go ahead, Bill.
There's a reason for the liability, and it's to safeguard the public. We jealously guard our airspace, as staff should. This is the appropriate forum for us to take this issue up. It's also the appropriate action that you're proposing, because our health, safety, and welfare come first. Thank you, sir.
Any other questions, comments?
Just a comment, after we've had to deal with the electronics, I would feel strange about sending anything away from this landfill anymore if we would have to pay for it to send it out and then have to worry about which year it would come back, that we would have to completely pay for it again. So I would feel odd about sending anything out of the landfill anymore. I realize we still have to do electronics. But I think that is what we need to do with this. Is there any way going forward with this kind of a C&D? I don't know if we're going to have, of course, we're going to have the furniture and all of that, but are we going to do the same thing with the cement and rebar and wood and other things that would be coming in as well?
No, regular C&D we'll operate with it as we do today.
Okay.
Deconstruction stuff, new construction, it'll be treated C&D just like we are today. Anything in the flood areas that's been flooded, that has a possibility of a mold or anything else in it, then we will take that to the landfill.
Okay. I guess what concerned me was, and we still may put that, I guess, rebar and different things. I just wanted to make sure that we were doing what we could with the C&D to make sure nothing would actually puncture the liner any more quickly than anything else we're doing.
We're far enough away now from the bottom liner that
Okay.
there'll be no
So
danger in that.
That wouldn't be a
And we'll probably have two working faces. I'll leave that up to Mike and Wayne and the guys in the back. We'll probably have two working faces, one for C&D and one for the MSW, where those trucks can get in and out more easily, and we're trying to make it as easy on the trucks as we possibly can.
Okay. Do you think we need to test the leachate any more times, or
No,
than we are doing now, just to make sure?
We tested enough, and Grand Strand tested. I think we're fine on the regular testing that we're already doing.
Okay.
Dr. Bo?
I have a question. Do the regulators require us to map disposal areas as separate from any of the rest of the waste that we handle?
No, sir.
As long as it's handled within the same parameters of the line,
Yes.
that they're satisfied with that. And we'll be testing it as we normally test the leachate and
Yeah.
okay, thank you.
If we find a third-party carrier that's willing to take this to collection form.
Pull it closer to you.
Closer?
There you go.
I don't talk enough really to keep it real close, but if we could find a third-party carrier that'd be willing to take this product, one question is why wouldn't we do so and let them assume the liability?
Let,
And then the second question is, and you can let them assume the liability and have it written up as such in a contractual form. Two, we're saying this is, potentially dangerous or, has some mold and stuff in it. Why would we want that in our landfill? And three, or this is just a statement, not a necessary question, but I'm not necessarily sure that if we got an option to send this to a third party, our whole goal out here since I've been on the board is to protect the life of the landfill. And here we are discussing about giving up 4 to 6 months of our prime real estate and our only landfill in the county. So if we got other options out there, I definitely would like to explore them.
there's options out there. If a private hauler picks the material up wherever he picks it up at and takes it any other place, that's fine with us. That's happening today as we speak. We don't have a problem with that. But if we take the material through our gate, offload it, and load it back on another vehicle, and it goes out, we in the chain of liability. We had a contract with the people with the TVs. They were licensed, had every certification that was needed through the feds. They took the stuff, put it in a warehouse, LLC folded up and went away. The only difference between us and them, we're not an LLC. We just can't fold up and go away. But if another contractor picks it up from someplace and takes it to another site, we have no problem with that whatsoever.
But another landfill, they operate under a lot of the same rules and regulations through DHEC that we are, so I don't think they're necessarily gonna be able to fold up like the LLC with the TV company, because they still gonna have to be bonded, licensed, and insured with their landfill. Therefore, if they fold up, they still got a long accountability for that landfill. Am I wrong?
You're not wrong, but we don't need to be in that liability chain if we can help it.
And that's what I'm suggesting, send it, I know what you're saying with the chain, but we can take this whole liability from our landfill, from our county, and get rid of it, and put them under the liability of assuming that through contractual, and once it turns over to them, then it becomes their baby at their landfill with them and DHEC.
Sam,
That's the point he's
I
making.
think that's
Yeah.
the point that he's making. Once you get in the chain, you're in the chain. If we bring C&D in here and unload it, put it on another truck, and send it somewhere, even if it's to another landfill, if that landfill has problems and it is sued, whatever they find from the solid waste from Horry County, we will be a part of that lawsuit. That's the same thing happened with our e-waste. Yeah, so the liability that we're trying to eliminate, even though we may be losing 4 months, we're trying to eliminate the possibility of getting involved with, because we don't know where they're gonna take it if we unload it and send it somewhere, we don't know. The other problem that I have, other than the liability, is that this time, this waste is considered to be more hazardous than any other thing that we have ever seen in this county. We don't know what's in that waste. We don't know what kind of health problems we will have. And if we send that thing somewhere and they begin to create health problems and whatever, and our name is tied to it, then we are going to be responsible for whatever that can be. And that certainly could be longer than 4 months.
Cradle to grave.
Cradle to grave. I dealt with this years ago with hazardous waste. You never get away with it. If you send something and you're tied to it, it can be 40 years from now. We will be, this solid waste authority will have responsibilities for that, and that's what we're trying to eliminate. Even though we know that we may be giving up some airspace, and I've talked to Danny about that, and what they're trying to do to mitigate that is to be more, to compact more in order to try to get it
Certainty of how it's.
set right.
I would certainly, any private company that would make a deal with whomever so that it doesn't come through us is fine. But having sat through the lawyer's presentation, it doesn't really matter what private entity has a contract or tells us they won't hold us liable. It is a federal law that says we are. And that contract really doesn't mean anything. We had a contract that meant nothing. That federal law says that you are. If private industry wants to contract with everybody out there and take it all, that's fine with me. I mean, matter of fact, I'd prefer they did. But when it touches this gate, I can't ever vote again after sitting through those federal and listening to that, because it is a federal law that if we touch it or it comes through that gate, we will be responsible for that. And there's not any contract anybody can write that will make any difference, because 50 years from now, if someone else, well, 2 days from then, the same guy that did that contract can have his lawyer come go to federal court and say, well, this is what federal law says and we're stuck. But if that landfill is ever sold, that man, if he has a problem, made no deal with us and will come back. And I would like to say, it would be nice, but we have found out in the state with DHEC, there is one landfill that was private, that was supposed to operate like we do, that went belly up. They were not made by DHEC to have enough money in there or enough insurance to cover it. The state is now having to set aside almost $3 million a year to pay for the cleanup and for the next 30 years of looking after that landfill out of taxpayers' money. So I would like to say, in my opinion, private landfills don't have enough. DHEC up until now, and they looked at it when they redid the rules, they aren't making them have enough money to handle those things. So for those two reasons, I couldn't do that.
Flooding has even impacted those Superfund sites.
Okay.
I'm concerned about space and landfill as well. One thing, and I realize that, you can draw up the nicest contract in the world, and when you end up going to court, the firm that organizes and wins out the best is the one who's got the best lawyers, and lawyers are generally the ones that end up making the money on this, and whoever else gets holding the bag. My only suggestion at this time is that we probably try and encourage as many private haulers to take their stuff someplace else and keep it out of here, and encourage private haulers to, to get on the bandwagon, and here's a chance for you to make some money and, work harder and work faster, but don't bring it here.
Any other comments, questions?
The compaction, yes, sir. The compaction, we can improve on this compaction to, not necessarily that we're gonna lose 4 to 6 months. We're gonna lose some time, but maybe we can recover some of that with our compaction process and so forth.
That it?
Yep.
Okay, I need to get an motion on the resolution.
I
So
make-
move.
Second.
All right, it's been properly moved and second. All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it, and the motion is carried. I have the original, I'll pass this around. I need to get your signatures on that, please. Next agenda, item on the agenda is the portable scale purchase. You want to talk to us about that, Danny?
Yeah, we're in a critical time frame on scales, and I'm gonna let Mike and Rich, Jan speak to this.
Thank you. We're looking at trying to purchase some portable scales in order to, we got a set of scales out there that we're having problems with. Actually, the foundation on the scales is given and it's leaning sideways. And we're having to call the scale repair people in here about, I think in the last month, they've been here 2 or 3 times. And every time they come is about $3,000. And the last time they came, they said, these scales is going to quit on you. So that's when we started looking for a way, because we got to dig up the foundation of the scales and dig the whole scales up and redo the whole thing. We started looking at a way to try to get a set of scales in, so if these scales fail, we'll have something to pick it up. And that was for us to buy a set of portable scales. We have $150,000 in the budget that we set aside this year, and it's in the budget, to repair those set of scales that we're talking about that's failing. But we're going to take them at this time, take that money and buy a set of portable scales. And we chose the set of scales, we had a chance of buying a set of scales that was on the line, that was in the process of being made. And we had to make the choice of buying them or not to get them in here. And I was going to get Richie to explain why we chose the scales we did. We did an analysis of the scales. We did get 2 bids on scales before we actually made the purchase. But Richie understands those scales and how they operate and what they're made of, and he's going to come up and explain to y'all why we chose to buy the set of scales we bought them, to try to get y'all to understand, even though we had the money in the budget, we want y'all to understand why we bought the higher dollar scales. There was 3 sets of scales, 3 different sets of scales that we got prices on, and I'm going to let Richie explain to you why. Me or him want to try to answer any questions after he gets done.
You got a question for you, Mike?
When do we plan to replace those scales, Mike?
We got it on the next board meeting for y'all's consideration, which is on the 8th.
We would need portable scales while that is under construction.
We would also need some type of scales to.
Means-
And also, if we have a storm like we have now, the amount of trucks that's coming in here, it would be good to be able to have a portable scales to sit there and have 2 incoming scales coming in when we get high traffic, or if the scales went down at the MRF. It would be good, because these scales, you can pick them up, put them on a truck, move them to another location, so that they're portable, so we can move them around where we need to in the event some of our scales go out in the future.
Mike, let me ask you a quick question. I guess he'll explain that. When you say they're portable, they are digital inclined.
The digital scales work with our system, got a cord, we'll run it up, we'll plug it in our system and go to work.
Okay.
Good afternoon.
Afternoon.
Currently, the scales that we have now are analog. They came out in 1989. That's the technology we have now. The problem with that is during the heat of the day, when the sun hits the scales, the weights change, 20 to 60 pounds. Also, they have junction boxes that water get in, and it changes the weights. It's not accurate. In 2010, they came out with a new style called digital. That's the scales I'd like to recommend. It's got a 10-year life, bumper-to-bumper warranty on them. There is no more junction boxes. All the load cells are tied together, and they're self-diagnosing. It senses a code if the weights are off. If we have a bad load cell or cable, it sets an alarm off in the scale house. They can send a text or an email to the maintenance crew. It was like a $15,000 upcharge to go to digital. Currently, Toledo has this system, and all the landfills and rock quarries are going to this because it's much more accurate, less downtime, and the portable scale that we did find that I wanted to go with is about 7,000 pounds heavier of steel. The reason why I feel we need to go with the heavier weight is moving it from different location, it's going to get banged up. Going with the lighter scale, I feel it would be damaged, so that was the reason for going with the heavier duty, they call it a mining scale. That also raised the price up. So the difference between the 2 bids was significantly higher. It was like $25,000 for the better scale. That was with the digital technology, the 10-year bumper-to-bumper warranty, and the extra weight in the scale, so you wouldn't get no deflection putting it in the dirt. The others, go ahead.
Warranty, what was its warranty, please?
10 years
10
bumper to
years,
bumper.
yeah.
The Toledo has the same technology scale that we have currently now, the analog. That's a 5-year warranty. Still has the same problems with the weather and the junction boxes. Scale South put in a bid for a Rice Lake scale. Their load cells are only 2-year warranty, and the indicator that takes the parameters from the load cell and puts it into the scale house and converts it to weight. And that's only a 2-year warranty, and the scale is only a 5-year warranty. Those were gonna take 14 to 16 weeks to get made. And that was the lower bid. The higher bid was, like Mike said, we were able to grab one that was for another customer at a rock quarry, and they gave it up for us. They were actually upgrading their analog to a digital. And I believe they said delivery will be installed 16th of this month.
Be when?
The 16th of this month, they'll be on the ground installing. Any questions?
And when you're talking about portable scales, you're not talking about the portable scales that the state highway people put underneath here. Unfortunately, during a time in my life, I drove truck for a living, but that was only one summer in college, and I decided right then and there, I don't want to be a truck driver anymore. But
No,
I remember the state weighmaster pulling me over, and I had to drive over these little scales and whatever else. We're not talking about though, are we?
No.
Okay, that's good.
They're raised scales, they have safety rails on the side, they don't have ramps, and there's a reason behind that, because when you put the portable scale down, it's not gonna be 100% level, so they recommend using aggregator stone. You can feather the ramp to the scale so it
Okay.
gets up level.
That's good.
What are you gonna use to move these things around with? Because it sounds like they're gonna be pretty heavy and pretty big.
Front end loader,
And the other thing is that I'm assuming they have sensors in them, or how well, or the sensors. We talk about the weather with the analog. How's the weather going to react with the sensors and the scales?
they are sealed for 10 years.
Okay.
Lightning strikes, guaranteed 10 years. There's no cost to us but the annual maintenance to calibrate them.
Okay. I guess this question's for Mike. How much have we been spending on maintenance on that scale that we have out there now?
They come right after the storm. It was $3,600. They were out here for probably, what, hour and a half, 2 hours? So about every time they come, it's popping us for around $3,000. In the last 30 days, they've been twice.
They were just calibrated 90 days ago.
Yeah, but calibrating, but the load cells are beginning to blow out on them. So they had to replace a load cell on it and rewire. Then we had a wiring problem they had to come work on. The scales are, like I said, the foundation's beginning to lean and the whole scale's beginning to lean, so it's causing the load cells to move on it. They come out and calibrated them last week, but that's part of a yearly fee that they charge us to do it. It's like $1,200 a quarter. Yeah.
How old is our current scale?
Scales were bought in 2007.
And they're more mechanical.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like I said, at our board meeting, we're going to talk about taking those scales up, redoing the foundations, putting new load cells, put them above ground. Because the foundation's got to be redone. So why not put them above ground where they'd be easier to clean and work up under?
So we gotta have something while that's being worked on.
Right.
Otherwise, we're not gonna be able to weigh vehicles when they come in.
Well, if like the other day when they went out, he had to come from Florence here. Now, luckily, he was here in about an hour and a half, 2 hours on the 21st. He came right straight down here. He went to work on them. But we had one set of scales that weighed everything in and everything out. So you had people going around the scale house to weigh in, going around the scale house to go back to the landfill, and then you had that long line waiting to get out. Because you can't process but so many trucks. Know how fast you are, you can't do it but so fast.
And I don't believe there's been a truck in the landfill since it started raining that met the weight load of the highway.
Yeah, and that is something else too I didn't bring up. These scales that's there now are 80,000 pound scales. And the ones we're asking to put in are 100,000 pound scales, way up to these here rock quarry one's way up to 200,000 pounds. But what'll happen is when these trucks come in, like after the storm and all the rain, they were so wet and so much water in, they were weighing as much as 90 to 100,000 pounds in a truck. And it was putting extra pressure on them load cells. You gotta realize now they're old, and you got 80,000 pound of scale and you throw in 100,000 pound of weight on it, it don't take much to break them.
And the new one would, how much?
Up to
200,000?
200,000 pounds.
200?
One thing to mention is that we've discussed it with Wayne Floyd, who helps us with our storm debris. We are going to apply for FEMA reimbursement to try to recoup some of the money from the purchase of these scales because of the fact that we are purchasing them to help with the amount of volume that we are receiving from the storm. So along with that and some of the other expenses we've had with putting the temporary road in due to the storm, we are going to be applying for FEMA reimbursement.
Any more questions, comments? What do you need from us?
Make a motion to purchase. I'll make a motion that we purchase the scale.
It's been properly moved in second. All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. Motion's carried.
Thank you.
Okay, Danny, you want to give us an update, or Mike, on the hurricane?
Well, we've had some challenges, and Mike's got some pictures, and I guess when our entrance got flooded and we'd already started on the emergency road out back. And that Sunday, we got a bunch of guys to come in, and we went ahead and got the road pushed through, ready for Monday morning. Our neighbors didn't like the idea of the trucks going down Mill Hill Road. But we used the back entrance 3.5 days. And if we hadn't have had that entrance, we'd have been down. No garbage collection, no center pickup. And Esther has had one heck of a time getting people across the river to work. What center are we gonna open up? The contractor was having trouble getting to the sites because of the traffic, but the landfill was open every day. The offices were open, and the girls spent most of the time answering phone calls, and I've never heard such arguments and complaints in my life over couldn't dump 2 bags of garbage at a convenience center. And you will see some of the pictures. And Mike, you can go ahead with the pictures.
As Danny said, Wayne and I talked on Sunday morning and decided that this driveway was beginning to flood. You can see it flooded up here. This is Highway 90. It was beginning to flood early on Sunday morning, and we made the decision to build Mill Hill Road. So we started calling employees on a Sunday morning and said, we need you to come in. Danny and I and Wayne had anticipated that it may be the need, and we had sort of cleared the road prior to the storm. Right after not prior to the storm, but right after the storm, we started clearing it a little bit as the water was moving up. I do want to say the guys came out and did an excellent job. They worked hard, and in a matter of about 10 to 11 hours, they worked all day long, and we built a 1,400-foot road through the woods that would hold 100,000-pound garbage trucks in one day. So I thought they did an excellent job. Good group of guys. Anyway, this is the flooded area. This is the office. This is the flooded area. I'm going to try to give you, yep. Ooh, okay. All right, this is the office over here. So this is Highway 90. This is the flooded area. And as you can see, it was flooded all the way up, all along in here and all the way back on Highway 90. Yeah, here's the main entrance right here. Then we did a secondary entrance here, and when the water got up to about right here, we decided we had to build a road because it was coming. At that point in time, when it was right there, it was about 17 foot. It was Matthew event when it got right here, about 17.5 foot. And we knew, according to the thing, it was going to come up another 4 or 5 foot, and we knew it was going to take over that road. So at that point in time is when we made the decision to build a road, and then we had to block it all off. We had traffic signs on Highway 90. I didn't take a picture of those, but we had traffic signs on Highway 90 directing traffic to the landfill, tell them that there was no through road for people to go around it, and how to get to this location. We made sure that our customers knew exactly how to get here. This is Mill Hill. So Highway 90 is running over here, where I'm moving this thing. This is Highway 90. This is the flooded area right here in front of the office. So we came in off of Mill Hill and cut this road up to here. This road was already built, but we made a new road from here to Mill Hill and opened it up for traffic.
That light stuff is not water.
No, that's pavement right in there. There was no flooding on Mill Hill. This area right here was basically about a 30-foot elevation. So when we came out this way, it was 30 foot of elevation. There wasn't no chance it was going to flood, I didn't think. So we felt like this road would, no matter how high it got, we were pretty safe. And this is a picture of the guys cutting the road and putting the material on top of it. And this was on Sunday morning. This is material they were laying on the road. As you can see, we were packing it in as they were laying it on. We were packing it and laying it. Had that Caterpillar bulldozer moving right there, that D6.
Y'all used, what you use for your base?
It's-
Coquina?
Yeah, coquina base. Had some clay in it, but it was all we had at the time, but we used it and built this road, okay? This is part of the finished road. It was finished. Trucks had already been using it at this point in time when I took this picture. This was after Monday morning. Monday morning at 3 o'clock, we also decided to open the landfill at 3 a.m. We got requests from the haulers to open it up because they couldn't get around. So we had traffic start coming into the landfill at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, or 3 o'clock in the morning, and we worked till 1:30 in the afternoon. The haulers had requested that they run those hours because the first few days it was pretty tough on them. So we opened the landfill up earlier, and we had not only have drivers thanking us and thanking people in the landfill, we've had the companies call us and thank us for working with them so they'd be able to get their trucks in and get the garbage off the street. Of course, our part of it was public health. We wanted to make sure the garbage got off the street, that we didn't have public health issues out there during a hurricane, that we had to give some way for them to dump their garbage. Okay, that's another part of the road that's just finished. When we got done with this thing, we stayed on this road for 3 days and 5 hours. And we closed it up. We put a fence back on it, back over the end of the road on Mill Hill, closed it back up where we took the fence down, put a sign on it that says no trespassing, and started directing traffic. The minute Monday morning when we come out here, we started directing traffic back to the secondary entrance here at the landfill. I think that's it. I'll try to answer any questions y'all got.
I just think you did an amazing job, and I'm sure the companies and the people where they're trying to get rid of their garbage, I had heard from quite a few people tend to be very upset. I didn't know there were that many people that were like my friend Ann that took their garbage every day and couldn't bear to have a bag in the house. I don't take mine every day. But it's a good thing we could get it through when we did, and that you did that good a job, because there were so many people that were upset that even in an emergency and the hurricane and the water we had, that they were inconvenienced, and I think everybody was inconvenienced. We even had people throwing garbage in front of our closed fences, which I think is appalling. Some of us need to get over thinking we're more special than that, because the people that work in those areas had to pick that garbage up and take it in and dispose of it with the rest of their job. And some of that was wet, and some of it people actually had had in their houses and the back of their trucks for days and weeks. And the people that work for us, that work for the county and work in those convenience centers should not have had to have done that. And anyone that did do that ought to be ashamed of theirself. That's all I've got to say.
Sam.
That was one of the, things I was gonna bring to the meeting, and this might not be the right meeting, but I think next time on our hurricane or emergency prepared list, maybe we want to get one of them regular dumpsters, you know, just that they front load dumps and put out there if we got to shut the centers down, just for some help. Because they can run those out there to the centers and hopefully get on the road and pick them up in short time.
We have tried that up at Lake Arrowhead, and everything from loads of shingles, everything in the world is dumped there. You know, you always heard, well, we're gonna have a snow or we're gonna have a hurricane. Go to the store and get a loaf of bread and a gallon of milk, and we've added something to that. Take the garbage off. Before anything, it's just a flood getting the garbage. And the worst statement I heard through this whole thing, one of the girls was trying to explain to people why we couldn't do certain things. And their statement was, well, people in Conway really get upset over a little bit of rain. So that's where we were for almost 3 weeks.
Losing faith in humanity, one individual at a time.
Well, I'd just like to thank Mike and Danny. I did take a tour of the Solid Waste Authority when they completed the road, a great road. I'd like to thank them for getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning and to come out. I spoke to Danny early on, and we had a conversation about the road beginning to flood, and they made great preparations to do that. In fact, I came down here during the storm, and I think Esther and those had closed the recycling center, and since so many of our friends had problem with getting rid of their trash, like you say, didn't know they ate that much, but we actually opened up the recycling center so that people could get in there and get rid of their garbage. Another thing amazes me, how many people would want to ride around in the storm to throw away trash, but I guess, you know, trash is important to them until, you know, we have to do something. But I think the guys did a great job. I think Esther did a great job. One time I called, and there was about 14 recycling centers still open.
Yeah.
So there were centers open. You could have gotten to a center. Now, it may have taken you a little ways to get to one, but imagine all of those people who work here that couldn't get here off of 9, couldn't get here off of 22. I had to drive 25, 26 miles just to get to Conway. And I'm just retired, so I was just going on a leisure stroll. Imagine those people doing that every day. And imagine those people trying to get back home at 5 o'clock in the afternoon when it took 2 weeks ago, the traffic did not clear up until 11:30 at night. Okay, so these guys did a yeoman's job just to keep this place open, and my hat goes off to them and the work that they've done, and I really appreciate it.
Well, we appreciate the comments, and we just took the convenience off the convenience centers during the storm because they weren't all convenient. And in the pre-planning and talking with Wayne and Mike, we told the guys we had to figure out who was on this side of Sterrett Swamp and who was on this side of Sterrett Swamp to get to work at the landfill. And we offered that they could stay here, they could bunk out here, they could bunk out at the shop. And Wayne said, well, what we gonna do about eating? I said, go to buy groceries, cook breakfast, cook lunch. They don't have to go out, they can't go no place. So we did a lot to make it convenient for the guys, but they didn't nobody opt to sleep on them air mattresses, I don't think.
Air mattress is not too bad. I slept on them for a couple of years down at my daughter's house because she wouldn't buy me a bed. Go ahead.
Danny told me that for the storm, that employees were going to have a place if they were having a problem during the actual arrival of the hurricane. I think that was Danny's measure no one had to take advantage of it.
We
But
are.
we were prepared in case, and I think that's terrific. That's exactly what we should do.
Yeah, I think the employees is the most valuable thing we have out here. And the accolades and all that, I think you sound good. But I think we should do something for them. There's a lot of ways to do it, but whether we do, like we used to do before when we'd cook hamburgers or chickens or whatever, but I think the employees have certainly earned a thank you of some kind more than just the words. So I would like to ask staff to come up with some kind of program to show our appreciation for what they did. I've been here before when the storms come, and not only do they show up with a good attitude. And that's almost impossible to find in today's workforce. So I think I would like to propose we do something extra for the staff.
Mike, you were gonna respond.
Yeah, you know, it makes you feel good when you got a group of guys that you call to come in and not the first one of them said no. The ones that could get here, got here. And not only did they get here within an hour's call, they worked 11 hours to get that road built. And even before the storm come, we were planning for the event. DHEC come out and did our inspection today. And they said, she looked at me and she said, y'all really need to do a presentation at SWANA. And I said, why? And she said, y'all need to do a presentation on how to prepare for a storm, because y'all have done an excellent job. We flew over it with the helicopter the day after the storm, and we saw the evidence of what y'all had done before the storm hit. This place was in good shape. And we did. We worked on it a week. We worked overtime. We worked on it for over a week. And those guys worked hard, hauling dirt and moving things around, preparing to divert water where we had to divert it to keep it from washing the hill out, and did an excellent job. And it made me feel good today when DHEC said, you really need to do a presentation on how to prepare for a storm in a landfill, because y'all did an excellent job.
Y'all can decide later whether you want to include Danny and Mike in that thank you thing.
We've already put it together and we in it.
And we'll,
Thank you.
and we'll discuss it at the next meeting.
I just want to say, Mike, and I talked to Mike a few days before the hurricane, and I appreciate the fact that you were active in that ahead of time. We all know we're an environmentally sensitive area, and I'm glad that you looked at that, and I'm glad that you made that preparation so that there was as little damage and as little problem with that as possible, and to continue to check on that and make sure everything in that area is going well. But you did an excellent job, and I thank you for looking at that beforehand for us.
When you got a good staff, it makes it a lot easier.
Yeah, I think you ought to take that road building crew and start bidding private work with what you did in 11 hours. Goodness gracious.
Well, I know who to
Congratulations.
call when I need a road, right quick. And it worked. Any other comments, questions, concerns that can't be concerns at this meeting? You'll have to take them with you and bring them back next time. I don't think we have, an executive session is not needed, so I will ask for a motion to adjourn. All right, it's been- Okay, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.